This woman, Sarah, made one decision that destroyed her entire marriage. She told her husband of 3 years that physical intimacy was completely off the table forever. No negotiation, no discussion, just done. And when he finally took her at her word and found someone else to meet those needs, she was shocked that everyone, even her own family, sided with him. I'm Emma, and today on Mrs. Emma, I'm sharing Sarah's story. A story about boundaries, consequences, and what happens when you think your partner should just accept whatever you decide without question. Sarah is 29 years old, and the moment that changed everything started in a doctor's office. She received devastating medical news. She couldn't have children. Ever. The reasons don't really matter for this story, but what matters is what Sarah decided to do with that information. Now, most couples would grieve together. They'd talk about options, maybe adoption, maybe fertility treatments, maybe just accepting their new reality as a team. But Sarah? She made a completely different choice. She decided that if she couldn't have babies, then there was no point in physical intimacy at all. In her mind, that was literally the only purpose. So why continue? Here's where it gets complicated. Sarah admits she'd been faking enjoyment for years anyway, just going through the motions because that's what married people do, right? But now, with this diagnosis, she had what she thought was a legitimate reason to stop completely. Her husband Marcus came home from work that evening. He worked in logistics management, long hours, physically tired every day. Sarah was waiting for him, and without any warning, without any real conversation, she dropped the bomb. We're done with intimacy. I can't have kids, so there's no point anymore. Just like that. Marcus was confused, completely blindsided. He started asking questions the way any caring husband would. What exactly did the doctor say? Could they get another opinion? What about other options? What about adoption? But Sarah shut down every single question. She wasn't interested in raising someone else's child. She'd made up her mind, and that was final. Marcus tried to explain that intimacy wasn't just about making babies. It was about connection, about feeling close to your partner, about expressing love in a physical way. But Sarah didn't want to hear it. She told him that if he really loved her, this wouldn't be a problem. Real love, she insisted, wasn't about physical things. That was shallow thinking. Then she said something that would echo through their entire marriage. She told him this was her decision about her own body, and he needed to respect it. If he couldn't handle being in what she called a mature relationship focused only on emotional connection, then maybe he wasn't the man she thought he was. Now, let me pause here. Was Sarah wrong to have boundaries about her own body? Absolutely not. Nobody should ever be pressured into physical intimacy they don't want. But here's the thing. Marriage is a partnership. And unilaterally changing the fundamental terms of that partnership without any discussion, without any compromise, without any consideration for your partner's needs, that's not setting boundaries. That's issuing an ultimatum. Marcus was devastated. You could see it on his face. But Sarah? She admits she kind of enjoyed watching him struggle to understand. She felt like she finally had power in the relationship. Finally, she was the one making the rules. Over the next few weeks, Marcus kept trying to talk about it. Could they see a counselor together? Could they explore options? But Sarah wouldn't budge. Every time he brought it up, she'd get emotional and accuse him of pressuring her. She'd turn it around and make him feel guilty for even asking. In Sarah's mind, this was a test. If Marcus really loved her for who she was and not just for what she could give him physically, he'd accept this new arrangement. They could be companions, best friends, life partners. Isn't that what marriage is supposed to be about? But Marcus started changing. He became distant, cold. He'd come home and barely speak. He'd make his own dinner, watch television alone, go to bed early. When Sarah tried to cuddle or show other forms of affection, he'd pull away. Sarah was furious about this. Here she was dealing with devastating medical news, and Marcus was pouting like a child. She confronted him multiple times. "Why are you being so cold? I'm still your wife. I still love you." But Marcus would just say he was tired from work. He stopped doing nice things for her. No more surprise takeout. No more little gifts. No more planning weekend activities. Sarah saw this as proof that Marcus only cared about one thing. When that was off the table, His true colors came out. This went on for 2 years. 2 entire years. Marcus would periodically try to bring up counseling or seeing different doctors or exploring treatments. Sarah had strategies to shut down every conversation. Sometimes she'd cry and say he was making her feel broken. Other times she'd get angry and storm out. Her favorite tactic? Turning it back on him. So, my medical condition isn't enough for you? You need me to be physically available even though I can't give you children? What kind of man does that make you? Sarah admits she enjoyed this control. Finally, she was the one setting boundaries that actually stuck, and she had medical backing for her decision. Their friends started acting strange around her. Other couples would give Marcus sympathetic looks. Even Sarah's own sister suggested they try counseling together. Sarah felt like everyone was ganging up on her. Then came the letter. Marcus had started seeing a therapist on his own, which, by the way, Sarah saw as a betrayal. He was complaining about her behind her back. The letter he gave her was carefully worded. It said he loved her, but their marriage was falling apart. Could they please try counseling? Would she consider seeing a doctor about possible treatments? He wanted to fight for their relationship, but he needed to know she was willing to fight too. Sarah was furious. The audacity to put this in writing like a business proposal. The manipulation of making it seem like she wasn't fighting for their relationship. She was protecting herself and setting healthy boundaries, but apparently that didn't count. What really got her was the underlying message that her decision wasn't good enough, that she needed to be fixed to make him happy. So Sarah grabbed a red marker and wrote across his letter, "Go get it elsewhere because you're not getting it from me." She threw it at him and walked out. Sarah drove around for hours, angry that it had come to this. But honestly, part of her was calling his bluff. Marcus wasn't the type to actually do something like that. He was too much of a rule follower, too concerned with being the good guy. This would finally make him realize how serious she was, and he'd stop bringing it up. When she got home, Marcus was sitting at the kitchen table with the letter in front of him. He looked up and said one word, "Okay." Just like that. Okay. Sarah asked what he meant, and Marcus said, "You've made your position clear. You've given me permission to handle my needs elsewhere, so that's what I'm going to do." Sarah laughed because it seemed so ridiculous, but Marcus wasn't joking. He folded up the letter and put it in his wallet. He'd been thinking about this for months, he told her. Ever since his therapist helped him understand that some problems can't be solved if only one person is willing to work on them. Sarah tried to backtrack. She said she was just frustrated and didn't mean it literally. But Marcus held up the letter. "This seems pretty literal to me." He'd made his decision. Sarah had been clear for 2 years about what she wanted their marriage to be. Now he was going to solve his needs his own way. Sarah waited for him to apologize or take it back, but he didn't. If anything, he seemed lighter, like a weight had been lifted. 3 months later, Sarah found out Marcus had actually done it. He was seeing someone else. She wasn't supposed to find out the way she did. She was picking up his work shirts from the dry cleaner when the woman behind the counter made a comment about how nice it was that he'd found someone who made him smile again. When Sarah asked what she meant, the woman got flustered and started backtracking. But it was too late. Sarah confronted Marcus that night. He didn't even try to deny it. He just asked if she wanted details or if she preferred to keep things general. "You're cheating on me," Sarah said. Marcus went to his wallet and pulled out her letter, all folded and worn like he'd been carrying it for months. "You told me to get it elsewhere. This is elsewhere." "That's not what I meant," Sarah insisted. "Then what did you mean?" Marcus asked. "Because I asked you to clarify that night, and you didn't." Sarah started crying. Not on purpose, just from pure frustration. She said she meant he should stop bothering her about it, not actually go sleep with other people. Marcus just stared at her. "So you wanted me to be celibate for the rest of my life and never bring it up again?" When he put it like that, it sounded bad. But that wasn't the point. The point was he was supposed to choose her over everything else. That's what marriage means. Sarah demanded he end it immediately. She said they could try counseling together. Finally, right? She was willing to compromise. But then Marcus asked the most frustrating question. "What's the goal of counseling?" Sarah said counseling was about communication and working through problems, but not about changing her fundamental position on something medical. "So counseling to help us both accept a celibate marriage?" Marcus asked. If that's what it takes, yes, Sarah said. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I want to. The honesty felt like a slap. After everything they'd built together, this was more important to him than their actual relationship. It proved everything Sarah had suspected about his priorities. She told him he needed to choose her or this other woman. End the affair, and they'd figure out counseling, or she was done. But Marcus wouldn't agree to end things unless Sarah could promise that counseling might actually lead to changes. And Sarah couldn't promise that because she'd already made her decision. The next few months were terrible. Marcus was basically living a double life. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. He'd get texts and answer them right in front of Sarah. He'd shower and change before coming home some nights. Sarah tried everything. She cried. She got angry. She tried being sweet and reminding him of good times. Nothing worked. Marcus stayed calm through all of it. When Sarah would scream about how this was destroying their marriage, he'd just say, Our marriage was already destroyed. This is just me refusing to be miserable while we figure out what comes next. Their friends started picking sides, and Sarah was shocked by how many sided with Marcus. They knew about her decision and the letter. They saw him as the victim. Sarah's own sister told her she should let him go. She was torturing both of them. But Sarah couldn't understand. She was the one being cheated on. Then Sarah found out who the other woman was. Someone from Marcus's gym. Divorced, no kids, works in customer service. Everything Sarah wasn't. Available, uncomplicated, willing to give him whatever he wanted. When Sarah confronted him, Marcus said something that still makes her angry. She doesn't make me feel broken for having normal needs. Sarah started watching this woman's social media. She wasn't even prettier, just younger. The kind of woman who'd settle for being someone's side piece. But seeing them together in photos, Sarah realized Marcus was different with her. He looked relaxed, happy, like their marriage problems had just disappeared. Sarah gave Marcus one final ultimatum. Choose me or choose her. His response. What's the point of counseling if you've already decided physical intimacy is off the table forever? Sarah tried to explain they could find other ways to connect, but Marcus shook his head. I don't want to learn how to be okay with being celibate for the rest of my life. I want to be with someone who actually wants me. Marcus filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Sarah couldn't believe it. After all the years they'd built together, he was throwing it away for some woman he'd known for a few months. It proved everything she'd always suspected. Men are only interested in one thing. When you take that away, they have no loyalty. The divorce was difficult. Marcus had documentation of everything. Her letter, records of all his attempts to get her into counseling, notes from his therapy about how their marriage problems affected his mental health. Sarah's own family started questioning her side of the story. Her mom actually asked what Sarah expected Marcus to do if she wasn't willing to be a wife in all the ways that mattered. Sarah lost most of their mutual friends. They acted like Marcus was a saint who tried everything while she was stubborn and wouldn't compromise. Never mind her medical condition. Never mind that she was the one who got cheated on. The final insult? Sarah found out through social media that Marcus had moved in with this other woman, and they looked genuinely happy. She posted pictures of them doing normal couple things. Grocery shopping, watching movies, going out to dinner. What really hurt was seeing how relaxed Marcus looked, like he'd become a completely different person. The man Sarah had been married to was quiet and tired all the time. This version was laughing, social, seemed to actually enjoy life. So here's where Sarah is now, living alone in their old apartment, still convinced she did nothing wrong. In her mind, Marcus chose immediate physical gratification over building something deeper. Their friends chose to support the cheater. Her family blamed her instead of supporting her. She made what she calls a reasonable decision based on her medical reality, and she's not apologizing for having boundaries. But here's what I want you to think about. Yes, Sarah had every right to make decisions about her own body. Nobody should ever be pressured into physical intimacy. That's absolutely true. But marriage is a partnership. When you unilaterally change the fundamental terms of that partnership with no discussion, no compromise, no consideration for your partner's needs, and then literally tell them to get those needs met elsewhere, What exactly do you expect to happen? Sarah spent 2 years refusing counseling, refusing to explore any options, refusing to even have a conversation. And when Marcus finally took her at her word and did exactly what she told him to do, she was shocked and devastated. The real tragedy here isn't just a failed marriage. It's what happens when we confuse boundaries with ultimatums, when we mistake control for empowerment, when we expect our partners to sacrifice fundamental needs without any willingness to meet them halfway. So what do you think? Was Sarah justified in her decision? Or did she push her husband away by refusing to compromise? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story made you think, hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Mrs. Emma so you never miss another story that makes you question everything you thought you knew about relationships. I'm Emma, and I'll see you in the next one.